For only 2 years, there was this haunted house attraction that would open in October. It was unofficially called Shadow Hill House because there was some sign that looked like it was bought from a cheap party store. It was propped up in front of the so-called parking lot, which wasn't really a parking lot, just a patch of grass designated for parking. This was the year they shut down, and it was also the year my friends and I decided to go. I went with Ethan, Jake, and Ryan. We chose to go on a Thursday night since we were all in college and had Fridays off. It was definitely quieter than a weekend. Surprisingly, there was no line at the ticket stand, and when we followed the directions to the entrance, there were only 4 people ahead of us. What we didn't realize, though, was that they were letting only 1 person in at a time. We had no idea this was part of the experience. If anything, it made it scarier. We shoved Jake in front to go first. I was second to last with Ryan behind me. Every few minutes, they sent the next person in. When Ethan went in ahead of me, I started getting nervous. I hadn't done a haunted house since I was a kid, and back then I was with my family. Finally, it was my turn. A woman in a bloodied costume opened the door and told me to enter. As the door shut behind me, I found myself in a dimly lit building, mostly illuminated by flashing lights. As I walked through, I saw gruesome props, mutilated corpses, and other horrific sights. Every so often, actors dressed in terrifying costumes would jump out from around corners or through hidden holes in the walls. And every single time, they got me. I jumped. At one point, I was walking down a dark hallway between 2 rooms when I suddenly felt something brush up against me from behind. I let out a short scream and turned around. In the darkness, I could make out a tall figure. I laughed, realizing it was just an actor. But then something happened that I wasn't expecting. The actor started pushing me down the dark hallway. I could barely see anything, but I went along with it, thinking it was part of the attraction. I don't remember how long I let him push me through the darkness, but eventually, he stopped. I heard a door close behind me, and suddenly, it was silent. I stood there, confused. I still thought this was part of the act, but I was scared. It was pitch black. Then I felt hands grabbing me. Not in a theatrical way, but in a way that felt wrong. Like someone was actually grabbing me. I shoved the person off and snapped, "Get the hell off me, dude!" Silence. I stood there, heart pounding. "You're going too far, man. You can't touch people like that." I waited, expecting the actor to guide me to the next part of the attraction. But nothing happened. Enough time had passed that I knew something was seriously wrong. I pulled out my phone, despite the attraction's rule against it, and turned on the flashlight. I wasn't in a haunted house hallway anymore. I was in a storage room, filled with props and janitorial equipment. But that wasn't the first thing I noticed. The first thing I saw was the tall man standing just a few feet away from me. He didn't look like an actor. He wasn't wearing a costume, just all black with a black face mask covering the lower half of his face. I stepped back, aiming my light at the door. "What are you doing, dude?" He didn't answer. Instead, he started moving his arms in some weird, exaggerated way, as if he were still pretending to be a character. I didn't stick around to find out what his deal was. I found the door and bolted out. Using my flashlight to navigate, I rushed back down the hallway until I came across another actor. He yelled at me to turn off my flashlight. I told him, "I was just assaulted by someone. I don't think he even works here." The actor, a teenager, probably younger than me, froze. He immediately dropped his act and told me to just keep walking because I was almost at the exit. I asked for a manager. He said I'd have to go back to the ticket stand. I sped through the rest of the attraction, ignoring the scares. Minutes later, I was outside. My friends were confused. Ethan asked, "Dude, how'd you end up coming out last?" I told them everything. We all marched to the ticket stand, demanding to see the manager. The worker there said he wasn't in that night, but would be back the next day. I told her what happened, and she promised to tell the team. I demanded my money back, and she gave me my $30. The next day, a girl from our college posted on Facebook that she had been sexually assaulted at the same haunted house the same night we were there. That was the reason the place shut down that month. I reached out to her, and as we talked, it became clear we had the exact same experience. Only the guy had gotten even more physical with her. She pressed charges against the owner for negligence. The haunted house staff swore that the man who attacked us wasn't one of their employees. Maybe that was true, but how did they not have security in place to stop something like that from happening? That was the first and last time I ever went to a haunted house.